Islamiyah Malaysia. He studied at the University of Technology Mara and was an active member of the National Union of Muslim Students. With that, we would like to invite Brother Yusaimi Yusuf to begin this session.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Adli. Alhamdulillah, we're back to the second session. I'd like to introduce, I hope you have a good lunch and solat, all that. Indonesia refer is isoma, istirahat, solat, and istirahat, makan. Rest, pray, and eat. Okay. Let me introduce your first speaker is Dr. Osman Bakar, Doctorate in Islamic Philosophy from Temple University. Currently hold Ghazali Chair in Epistemology and Civilization Study and Renewal at ISTEC IIUM. He also Emeritus Professor in Philosophy of Science in University of Malaya. Formerly Distinguished Professor and Director of Sultan Omar Ali Saifuddin Center of Islamic Study, University of Brunei Darussalam. He also formerly Malaysia Chair for Islam in Southeast Asia for Prince Talal Al Walid Center for Muslim Christian Understanding, Georgetown University. And also former Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic Research at University of Malaya. Dr. Osman also also author and editor for 41 books and numerous articles on various aspects of Islamic thought and civilization, particularly Islamic science and philosophy, which is a leading authority for example, classification of knowledge in Islam, Tawhid and Science. Latest book is Al-Farabi Life, Work and Significant. The latest one is Colonization in Malay Archipelago, Civilization Encounter. Okay, his right also been translated in to another language for reference. He also was among 500 most influential Muslim in the world since 2009. So just cut short, we invite the Prof. Osman for present Islamic ecology. Prof.
I did request for to be second speaker. Is it possible? Mr. Pat?
Yes, certainly, Prof. Remember, Dhammananda is here as well. Prof would like to request for Dhammananda. Can you put on your camera? Remember? Yes. Do you have your camera on? Dhammananda?
Where is my camera?
Okay.
At your computer, at the bottom of your computer, there's a mute. The second one is video. You know? You just switch on the video. You can click it, and then you're on. Can you see? Okay, I think it's coming.
Yes. Yeah? Is it on?
No.
I can only see the screen.
Yeah, that's right.
What happened?
What you do try again when
it
at the video when you click on the.
Yes, when I click on this is a start video. Then I click start video. Then maybe because of this screen, no?
No. I think maybe your video is not functioning. If that's the case. You look like your video
okay.
is not functioning.
Can someone else go ahead of me? I will find the technician. Okay? In 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, just.
Okay. Never mind. We will wait for a while. Yeah, we will wait for.
Sorry for the technical. Wait.
But I have my PowerPoint with you. If you can turn on the PowerPoint, then maybe you can have my voice.
Okay. Can I check, Abim? Are you uploading the PowerPoint?
Because I was supposed to be speaker number 5, so my teamwork is not here.
I see. Yes. Just wait for a while. Let me switch on your PowerPoint, and then we can start with it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hello. I mean, it's okay. I can since there's a problem there, I can present first.
All right. I see.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Prof. Okay, Prof. Start.
If you allow Prof to upload the PowerPoint.
Mute mic. Unmute. Hope everybody can patient well while our speaker adjust their technical.
Is this the file that you want to share, Prof? Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, I
Okay,
can hear you.
can hear you.
Yes, sorry, I was having a problem also just now with the file. All right, so I think should be okay now. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Sorry.
Amananda. Mute.
Next slide, please. Next slide.
Next slide.
Next slide, please.
Next slide, please. Next slide. All right. Thank you, brother moderator, ladies and gentlemen. So, as originally scheduled, I'm supposed to be the speaker of this session, but I thought no, better the second speaker go first. Now, since it was not advertised in the program, the title of my presentation, so basically the title is Quranic Ecology, Key Ideas. I just want to share with you all what the Quran has to say about ecology. Since there are so many ideas to be found in the Quran, I have to select a dozen or so ideas, and I would like to emphasize, especially for our non-Muslim friends who are not familiar with this with the Quran. Now, let me first of all, in Islam, in Islamic thought, the environment is a God-centric concept. It's God-centric concept. In other words, the physical environment and all forms of environment are ultimately related in some way to the ultimate environment, which is none other than God Himself, the ultimate reality. One of the names, one of the divine names, the names of God is as Al-Muhit, which means the surrounding reality, that which surrounds all other things. In other words, creation, the universe is finite, is enclosed in the system, which is encloses us by the ultimate reality, which is none other than God. So that name is important, Al-Muhit, the surrounding reality. Now, but of course, the environment consists of layers. The environment is multi-layered, beginning from bottom up. We start with the physical environment. In fact, relative to us as a person, as an individual, our first level of environment is none other than our home. So our home provides the first level of physical environment, followed by the broader and larger built environment, like in a city, we have the whole internet related connection between the built environment, and then of course we have the natural environment, and this in our usual normal conversation, basically we talk about these three levels: the home, the built environment in the towns, in the cities, and then the natural environment. Now, as far as ecology, that basically is applied Tawheed. Now, Tawheed, an Arabic word which refers to the principle of unity, starting from the divine reality, and the divine reality manifests itself at the lower levels of existence, so that we also have, in sense, the Tawheed at the level of the natural environment. So ecology is none other than, because ecology is about relationship, the interrelatedness of all things in the physical environment and the biological environment. It is about relationship, interrelationship, interconnectedness, and from the Islamic theological point of view, ecology, which is really comes under natural theology. You can say that ecology is a branch of natural theology. So since I'm talking about the Quranic ecology, so basically, I'm just reproducing here the verses of the Quran. I select them so that I select, in a sense, those verses we provide a broad overview of ecology. And in Islam, it is believed, of course, that the Quran is the word of God verbatim. So therefore, the verses in the Quran, which I consider as principles of ecology, they are actually words from God Himself. In other words, the key ideas are of divine origin, and Muslims try to understand those divine ideas in the Quran and then try to put them into practice. Okay, next on this. All right. Now, my first idea number one here. All right, I take from chapter 2, the Haifa, the verse 30. So just because of time, I just produce here the translation. All right. Now, behold, your Lord said to the angels, I will create a Vashran on earth Khalifa, create a vicegerent on earth. And another verse which I put under the same idea, idea number 1, and he taught Adam the names of all things. So this is important ecological principle in the Quran. And of course, there is a law referring to God. Then in Islamic cosmology, the angels exist, and then in connection with God's plan to create Khalifa, vicegerent, or in the Christian context, what about stewards? And that vicegerent is Adam, the first man, and also the first prophet. And God taught Adam the names of all things. Adam here is the name of an individual as well as the generic name for the human species. So in Islamic literature, Adamic race is used, right? Adamic race. And the name, of course, the exegetes of the Quran, interpreters of the Quran try to explain what the names of all things means. Yeah? And I'm in favor of the interpretation by Ibn Arabi, the 13th century spiritual, the Sufi, and because those names, he said, refer to all the names of God. And some others refer to the names of created things, the ability of human beings to understand the nature of all things. But from the viewpoint of the interpretation of Ibn Arabi, it doesn't matter when you call it, because ultimately you have to go back to the names of God himself. And therefore here I said, I summarized that man is a divine appointee, Khalifa, to take care of, administer and govern and manage the planet on behalf of God. Now, because it's what Khalifa means, and then the fundamental condition of vicegerency is unitive knowledge. That is the hallmark of Islamic teachings. Okay, next one. The idea number 2, from chapter 33, the Confederates, verse 72. This is translation. We, means God speaking in the plural, first person, we did indeed offer the trust, amana, the trust, to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to undertake it, being afraid thereof. But man undertook it. He was indeed unjust and foolish. Basically, this verse is about God's plan, God's cosmic plan, and in that plan, the creation of man on earth, and it's contrasted with the other creation, with the rest of the creation. Basically, here the issue is man alone, human being alone, has been given the freedom, the freedom of the will, right? But not the other creatures. So the other creatures all contented to be to submit to God without the freedom of will, without any alternative, any choice. But human beings have the freedom whether to abide by the trust or not to. Yeah? So in other words, vicegerency is a trust from God. And this is a very, very important concept. Man is a trustee to take good care of planet Earth. The natural world does not belong to human beings. It belongs to God. But human beings have been given certain things, in sense of superior things compared to other creatures, namely intelligence, namely intellect, reason, the spirit. These are the things that make the human beings special. But human beings should always be aware that the nature is a trust from God. We know very well the meaning of trust. Trust, we have the option whether to abide or not. So, okay, the next one, the idea number 3. again from chapter 2, the Haifa, verse 36. We said, God said, get you down, all you people, with enmity between yourselves. On earth will be your dwelling place and your means of livelihood for a time. Now, I said that this verse is about the planet Earth as man's temporary home, but a secure and comfortable one, sufficient for human needs. So here, it's very, very important principle, the idea of planet Earth as man's temporary home. Now, get you down, all you people, with enmity between yourselves, a command given to Adam, Eve, and Satan. In other words, the expulsion from the garden. All right. But anyway, the earth in which Adam, Eve lived, the first couple to live. I mean, that was a beautiful garden, the earth as a kind of paradise in terms of the what is available on planet Earth. Now, the concept of dwelling place there is very important. In the Arabic one, because the Arabic word sakar, giving the idea of secure, a secure place, and the in sense of, also in sense of that it is not stationary, it is something moving to a certain place, to a certain destination. And we should know very well, science tells us that our planetary system is actually moving at a certain speed, and then while the planet system travels in space, it also has a kind of motion, orbital motion around its own axis as far as our Earth is concerned. So this is has implications for ecology. Okay, next one. Idea 4, the chapter from again the Haifa, verse 38. We said, get you down, or from here, this is a repeat, but in different context. And if, as is sure, there comes guidance to you from me, whosoever follows my guidance, on them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. In other words, there will be happiness. Now, this is basically about, in the verse, telling Adam that his descendants may not worry, his descendants worry, because your generations will receive guidance from God from time to time. So basically, it's a divine message to guide man's sojourn on earth. Okay, next one. Now, I define the chapter, the Haifa, verse 22. My Lord, your Lord, who has made the earth your couch, and the heavens your canopy, and sent down rains from the heavens, and brought forth therewith fruits for your sustenance. Then do not set up rivals unto God when you know the truth. So this is about the home, about the description about the home. In sense, the earth is like a couch, it's a not comfortable bed, and the roof, the heavens as our roof. And then sending down of plentiful supply of water to enable that we get sufficient sustenance. So the earth, as the idea here, the earth as comfortable home and sufficiency. Okay, next one is idea number 6. Chapter 67, the dominion, verses 3 and 4. Now, he who created the 7 heavens, one above another, no one of proportion will you see in the creation of the most gracious. So turn your vision again. Do you see any flaw? Again, turn your vision a second time. Your vision will come back to you dull and discomfited in a state worn out. Kind of like poetic here, expression. But the idea here is that the earth as a home with perfect roof. Now, idea, next one, idea number 7, chapter 50, the chapter of the Qaf, verses 7 to 11. Right? And the earth, we have spread it out and set thereon mountains, standing firm, and produced therein every kind of beautiful growth in pairs, to be observed and commemorated by every devotee turning to God. And we send down from the sky rain charged with blessing, and we produce therewith gardens and grain for the harvest, and tall, stand and stately palm trees with shoots of fruit stalks piled one over another as sustenance for God's servants, and we will give life therewith to land that is dead. Thus will be the resurrection. The core message, the key message is that actually everything is made available for human life. Not only available, but in abundance. There's more than enough for everybody. Now, the Prophet, I think one of the hadith of the Prophet, of Prophet Muhammad, regarding this, whether what is available on earth is sufficient or not for human beings. Well, basically the hadith, the message of the hadith is that if what is available on earth is sufficient for everyone, from the first person until the last person, if only man or woman abides by the natural laws, the rules of creation and the rules of God. But if man or woman were to follow their greed, then the whole earth, if you multiply 7 times also the treasures of that, it will not be enough for greedy individuals. I think it's a good message. Yes. Next one. Chapter 13, the thunder, verses 3 and 4. And he is who spread out the earth and set thereon mountains, standing firm and flowing rivers, and fruit of every kind he made in pairs, 2 and 2. And in the earth are tracts neighboring, and gardens of vines and fields sown with corn and palm trees growing out. I think this is a very good example in the Quran. It's repeated the principle of biophysical ecology. Okay, next one. Now, idea number 9, chapter 23, the believers, verse 18. And we send down water from the sky in due measure, and we lodge it in the ground, and we certainly are able to drain it off. Now, it's a short burst, but the message is very clear, and I interpret this to mean that kind of there's a water cycle, abundant supply of water to the planetary home, the retention of water in the ground storage, and of course, water crisis is possible because the phrase "we certainly are able to drain it off," implying that it is within God's power to do that. But of course, in a sense also that it is the action of the human beings themselves. By their own misdeeds, human beings will contribute to the draining off of water, leading to a kind of water crisis. Okay, next one is the idea 10, chapter 6, the cattle, verse 38. There is not an animal that lives on the earth, nor a being that flies on its wings, but forms part of communities like you. Now, this is very interesting because the word used for communities is the plural of ummah. So the Quran describes the animal species also as communities like the human community. It's very interesting, and that used to be to serve as the basis in traditional Islamic science, the study of animal psychology, animal behavior, because the verse is about biodiversity, interspecies harmony, and biophysical ecology, integral ecology. Now, the word ummah implies, the word ummah used many times in the Quran, implies a kind of species that is organized around certain laws, which in Islamic terms is part of the Sharia. Muslim thinkers in the past talk about Sharia in the natural world and Sharia in the human world. As far as Sharia in the natural world is what modern science and modern philosophy call natural laws. But in the Islamic perspective, natural laws are none other than the Sharia of God. So that, in other words, every species has its own Sharia. The bees form a community; they have their own Sharia. The ants form a community; they have their own kind of Sharia. That applies to all other species. Okay. Next, the idea 11, chapter 6, verse 141. It is he who produced gardens with trellises and without, and dates and dates we produce of all kinds, and olives and pomegranates, similar and yet different. Eat of their fruit in their season, but render the dues that are proper. On the day that the harvest is gathered, be waste, not by excess, for God does not love the wasted. This verse has many messages, actually, many messages, but what I want to emphasize most here is the question of waste, which this morning I think Professor Dr. Azizan mentioned. Do not waste by excess. The word is tasrif. So tasrif is excess. God does not love the wasted. Now the messages are that the idea of the green planet, idea of vegetal diversity, and symbol of the Earth's sustainability as a source of legitimate human needs. And okay, next idea, chapter 22, verse 63. This is very, very interesting because here, okay, do you not see that God sends down from the sky and forthwith the earth becomes clothed with green? Mukhtaratan, Mukhtaratan, and the earth becomes clothed with green. For God is he who understands the finest mysteries and is well acquainted with them. I use this verse to support the idea that the earth is a green planet. So here in sense, the Quran calls the earth the green planet, which is a symbol of divine mercy for the planet Earth. All right, I think the. So again, next please. Next please. Idea 13, chapter 2, verse 11. When it is said to them, do not make mischief on the earth, they say, why? We only want to be peacemakers. Of a surety, they are the ones who make mischief, but they do not realize it. During the inaugural session this morning, I mentioned this. Basically here, the Quran is conveying the civilizational hypocrisy. One Western author, calls man the enemy of nature. So it is, in other words, the enemy of nature. It is basically man who is creating the destruction of nature. Okay, next, please. Is there anything else? I think there should be one more idea. Yes. I I think it's the last slide, chapter 30, the Romans, verse 41. Now, the Quran says, corruption has appeared on land and sea as an outcome of what the hands of man have wrought. And so, God will let them taste the evil of some of their doings, so that they might return to the right path. I think this is a befitting description of the modern environmental and ecological crisis. What we see, the crisis is the doing of human beings themselves. Of course, I mean, it's not the human beings, but certain people, part of the human species, are causing this. So now the last place there, was why do God let this the people who cause this corruption taste the evil of some of the doing? The idea is, to let men learn from their mistake. All right, we have done wrong to our natural world. God, well, nature in a sense fights back. Right, nature responds. Nature responds to the misdeeds of human being in various ways. So what we call the natural justice and so on is, in a sense, it is nature's response to the evil doing of human beings. So thank you very much. Terima kasih. Thank you very much. So basically, the selected ideas, I'm telling you that that is much more. Actually, it's just a small fraction of Quranic verses regarding ecology. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor. Maybe our take is how we define is ecology from a Quran perspective. I remember one of our dialogue personally with Prof in Leaf in UAE after conference about Islamic Muslim who don't do anything or interest on environment. He told me, ask them to relearn again on Islam itself. So one of the reasons I stuck in the NGO environment because of Prof himself. So if our second speaker ready, Brother Peck, Ramanda, okay. Let me introduce Venerable Dr. Dharmananda. Is IBED for Songda Makalayani Monastery in Bangkok, Temple for Buddhist Nun. Received his BA Philosophy from Vishwa Bharati University of India, a Master in Religion from McMaster University, Canada, and PhD in Buddhism from Magadh University, India. Professor of Philosophy at Thammasat University in Bangkok for 27 years. Authors many books and contemporary issue of Asian Buddhism and published under name of Dr. Chad Suman Kabil Singh. Okay, I think Dr. Dharmananda is ready.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Please, the floor is yours.
First of all, I would like to pay deep respect to His Holiness Dalai Lama, and also my greetings to my Buddhist friends, my Muslim brothers and sisters. It's a great opportunity to be talking. This dialogue I think it's very important. We have been talking a lot among Buddhists and maybe international, but I feel that in my own experience, maybe this is a first step that we Muslim and Buddhists, we work together. Allow me to present to you in my PowerPoint. Yes, thank you. Yes, ecology and sustainability through Buddhist texts. Next, please. Yes, this is very interesting. I take you way back 1985. That was my involvement with this project called Buddhist Perception of Nature, which was actually blessed by His Holiness Dalai Lama. The person who was coordinator, sorry, wrong spelling, Nancy Nash, she was American, but based in Hong Kong. And I worked through Wildlife Fund Thailand. And this project won Rolex Award in 1986. Next slide, please. Yes, these are the books are in Thai language. On the left is Thai language, Tree of Life, both in Thai, English, as well as Tibetan. Yes, next, please. His Holiness blessed myself as a team, as a researchers team, and representative of Wildlife Fund Thailand. Next. Yes, this is His Holiness' own writing for the beginning of our book. The world grows smaller and smaller, more and more independent, interdependent. Today, more than ever before, life must be characterized by a sense of universal responsibility, not only nation to nation and human to human, but also human to other forms of life. This was 1979. Yes, next one. Yes, and this one, oh, please be silent. Let us lend ears so that nature may speak of the hidden sorrow of the waves, of suffering birds and wounded trees, and of how people have neglected them through the long and lonely years. This was written by myself, but at that time I was still a lay person. Next. That project was aimed that we would be bringing out Buddhist texts so that we could send it to the Buddhist monks in the country. You know, we have something like 26,000 temples in Thailand. Thailand is a Buddhist country. Majority of people are Buddhist. So we thought that this project would reach the larger audience through the monks. Next. Yes, and this is one of the book in English that came out. I would like to introduce this book, you know, earlier, but I didn't have time because the message came to me at 9 o'clock last night. Next. Yes, and now Wildlife Fund Thailand move on, and now they focus on how to say, preserving the local Nok Yung Malay. Peacock, the wildlife peacock. They bought a piece of land in Lamphun, and I'm interested also now to go back again to work with them. Imagine I worked with them in 1985, and now it's 2022. That's a long time. But this the work on conservation began that early. Yes. Next. Next slide, please. Yes, now I come back to Buddhist texts. I give you historical development of Buddhist texts. It was handed down through words of mouth, through memory. Teachers handed down the teaching to chosen students. It was not written down because otherwise people who are not chosen will get to read. So it was through memory. Indian people have great memory, and that was how we have the text as it is. First council happened only 3 months after the great passing away of the Buddha, and 500 enlightened monks gathered to recite the teaching, which was agreed upon. It has to be agreed upon first, then they start reciting. That's why it's called Sankayana. Sankayana is reciting together. The role of the elder monks was at that time Mahakassapa and Venerable Ananda. Next. Buddhism passed on from India to Sri Lanka, and it was due to drought and famine. The monks moved away. You know, they had to, because the monks, they were depending on the people. So when the people start moving, the monks themselves also move along with the lay people. And after that, the king thought that, you know, if we allow this thing to happen, the scripture itself, the teaching itself will disappear in time with the monks, with the elders. So that was the first time when the Tripitaka means the 3 baskets. It was written on palm leaf. It was written on palm leaf and separated into 3 baskets, meaning the 3 divisions of the teaching, so to say. And this happened in the 1st century AD in Sri Lanka. Next. Yes, that's what you call the mural painting, as you see, and on the right is the palm leaf. That's how our teaching were written on palm leaf and strung together. Next. Yes, these three baskets, one is Vinaya. Vinaya is monastic rules, the oldest, among these, this is considered the oldest. The Sutta. Sutta is collective teaching of the Buddha as well as the elders. And the last one, Abhidharma. Abhidharma is talking about the mind and mental formation. Sorry, misspelling. This happened only last night. I will not touch on Abhidharma because there is no reference that I could draw from which is in relation to environment. The language of the text, very interesting. It was Pali. And then in Ashoka's time, that's about 3rd century BC. 3rd century BC, started to have it in Sanskrit. Next. Yes, in the Pali script, now it's not like in Christianity, you have one Holy Bible. You have the Old Testament and the New Testament in one Holy Bible. In Quran, I think also you have a big, huge volume, but one big volume, as Book of Heaven. But in Buddhism, you have 45 volumes, and each volume is about 300. So it's immense literature. And I focus in my research, I focus only the first part and the second part, not the last part. Next. Yes, monastic lifestyle, imagine the Buddha, he left the palace and he went into the forest. Of course, he gathered around himself during the early period. They were living in forest setting. So monastic lifestyle was very simple with basic 3 robes for the monks, and for us Bhikkhunis, we have 5 robes. And we have minimum, what we eat is only 2 meals a day, by lunchtime, what you call your lunchtime, that's our last meal for the day. So Buddhism very much supports the idea of consumeristic tendency versus materialism and consumerism on the other hand. So natural setting is a setting for very much, very friendly towards nature. The ethics to live with respect of nature is very strong in the Buddhist text. Next. Yes, our lifestyle, this is how we, the photo on the right is our Samaneris. Samaneris are novice, the female novice. How we go out and we literally beg, with our bowl. As soon as we go out with the bowl, people know that we come for food, and they would be so respecting, waiting, as you see on the left with the dogs, waiting to offer food to the monks and to the nuns. This is very beautiful culture that is still preserved in Thailand. Next. Yes, talk about the robes, and the idea of recycle came very early, 2,600 years ago in Buddhist text itself. When Venerable Ananda had a conversation with King Udena. King Udena did not. His wife, the queen, offered 500 robes to Venerable Ananda, and the king did not like the idea so much, So when he had opportunity, he asked Venerable Ananda, "What would you do with 500 robes?" Then Venerable Ananda started telling him that he distribute among monks in other provinces. And then what happened when the robe is old? Then Venerable Ananda told him, then he started using this as rags, cleaning up the floor, or maybe covering the ceiling. And then what happened after these rags? What happened? What do you do with this robe, which has now become rags? Then Venerable Ananda told him that they pound it with mud and to paste it on the wall. Imagine in those days you still have mud house. Yes, paste it on the wall. So the king realized that, this monk, he is very, he conserved nature, and he really took great care of nature. So he himself offered another 500 robes to Venerable Ananda. So the idea of recycle started in Buddhism very early on. Next. You may not realize what it is. This one in the center, it is actually tooth wood. You know how the forest monk, they chew this tooth wood, and then until it becomes become shredded, and then they start cleaning their teeth with it. Next. The toilet. Imagine that how to build a toilet was clearly described in the Buddhist text. You wouldn't imagine. Particularly if you travel in India some 30 years ago, you will find that when you go out in the village area, you could not find toilet. You know, we really have to go out in the field. We go out in the field. So the idea of toilet, how to make toilet, was very early on described very clearly in Buddhist texts. Next. In the sutta, the sutta is the style of the sutta. It begins with Venerable Ananda's. He said like this: "Eva me suttam." Thus I have heard. This I is Ananda. Venerable Ananda recorded the teaching through his memory, and in the first council, he was the one who recited all the teachings of from the Buddha that he memorized to the group, to this large group of 500 enlightened monks, and that's how it was preserved and handed down to us. Now I focus on the sutta, touch a little bit on the main philosophical concept. In Buddhism, we talk about this interdependent nature. When A is, B is. You know, I could not start my presentation early on because I had something wrong with the camera. So something wrong with the camera is the cause. Therefore, I could not deliver my presentation. And now when it is fixed, when the cause is fixed, the result is I can now talk to you like that, you know. So when A is, B is. Emphasize very much on cause and effect. Yes, next one. And then just cutting down a tree. There's one time, one politician, you know, he mentioned about looking at the forest, and he was seeing cubic of wood, you know. I was really annoyed. I'm sorry, I should not be annoyed as a monastic. I was very annoyed because he did not see the value of the tree as in the natural setting, you know. Cutting down a tree is to destroy the ecological system of the tree. The insects, the birds, everything that depend on that particular tree. If we see this connectedness of a tree to the forest, then you will value the natural setting, and we will truly value the forest. And early on, you know, when we started having flood, and we said, oh, this is natural disaster. It is not natural. When the trees on the mountain were cut down, you know, and there was nothing to withhold the water, that's why we had this sudden flood. So it was natural, not natural disaster, but disaster caused by human being, ourselves. Next. Oh, then in the previous slide, then there is this tradition of monastic ordaining trees. You know, we go in the forest and we look for the big one, the big tree that has been standing there for a long time. It's like a grandpa of that forest, you know. Then we put the rope around that and asking that tree to protect the forest. So that is the idea of ordaining tree. Training the mind is important to understand and appreciate nature. Mind is supreme. Mano pupang kama thamma mano setha mano maya. We act according to what we think. So nature exploitation begins in our mind. Just now, our Muslim brother also mentioned something that it actually begin here, begin with us, human being. Next. Yes, you see deforestation, it's all caused by human greed. Man, when we say man and nature, that is wrong. That is wrong. Man is within nature. You know, so when we start separating man and nature as though man can conquer nature or man can conquer the world, but actually man is within nature. And unless and until we realize this, we always try to master nature. To destroy nature, eventually man destroys himself. And when I said man, I mean human beings, you know, both men and women. flood is often man-made, with destruction of our own surrounding, the lockdown of our own surrounding. That's why you see this flood. And the lockdown in 2020 allowed us to see the clear sky, the clear ocean. You know, people in Kathmandu, people in Nepal start, for the first time after so many years, start seeing the range of the Himalaya, you know, with the clear sky, you know. So this COVID-19 is allowing us to see something of our own falls. Yes, next. Yes. You see the clear sky, you see the mountain range, you see the Kanchenjunga from, particularly if you are in Nepal, this is Kanchenjunga, and you see no cars on the street for the first time, and you see how these aircrafts are all landed quietly, peacefully, waiting for something to happen. Yes. Next. Our temple, now come back to our temple. Our temple focused very much, you know, after my years in the university, when I became ordained, then I also take with me from that 1985, the preserving nature. I also take that idea to apply in the monastic setting. We have reduce, reuse, recycle, and we try to create this zero waste community to conserve nature and for clean energy. So we try to make our temple to be center for sharing and learning, to bring about a happy world. We'll see more slides of our activities. Yes, this is our temple, situated on the highway. You can see very busy, very noisy. But when you walk in, you will see that you walk into yet a sanctuary of peace and of a very good setting. Next. Yes, this building on the left, we convert downstairs for open space to collect all the trash. And now we tell our donors, our people, sometimes they said, oh, they are poor, they cannot bring anything to the temple, they cannot offer financial assistance. I said, bring your trash, and that's how we make merit. So you can make merit through bringing trash. Once they realize that they can bring trash to the temple, they start separating. First idea, start separating paper, plastics, whatever they bring to this center. Next. Yes, we separate like this, you know. So towards the end of the month, the garbage which is collected on the right is now sold. It is sold to what you call recycle factory. Next. Yes, we do weaving. You know, I do the crochet. The center is a crochet. I do crochet from plastic bags. You know, we cut plastic bags into long shred like that, join them together, and then we crochet it into a handbag. And in the center, you see that dots of greens and yellow. You know what it is? It is the cap from your plastic bottle. We make a coffee table, the top of coffee table, and that round is actually the used tire. Used tire. Everything is used, you know, come back to the temple, and we try to produce. And I do weaving. Yes, we do rugs, you know, rug made from rags. So old clothes, when they bring it to the temple, we sell it secondhand. Now we have secondhand. But then after that, it is so old, people don't buy it anymore. So we cut them and we weave into rags. Next. Yes, and then compost, you know, whatever left over from the kitchen, it returned to the soil, and then it becomes fertilizer back to our garden. Next. Yes, so do you really see the community getting involved? We collect everything of our, milk, milk box, milk carton, you know, we also wash that. They make furniture. They make furniture from that. 1,000 of them can make one tile roof. So we try to recycle everything, and we allow people to see that this is what they can do, what they can help. Next. Next, please. Yes, and then the garden. Return to the garden. On the left, on the lower left, you can actually see that is Fathalaijon. Fathalaijon is a herbal that is used to prevent us, not prevent, to help us fighting COVID. It's very popular now, that kind of plant. I do not know what is the English word for it, but we do grow. We grow in our own garden. We grind them and powder them, and then put it into capsules, and we send it to field hospital. Field hospital. Yes, we send them to field hospitals around our community. Yes, all the beautiful work that we do at the temple. Next. Yes, this is a weaving, the rag weaving, and during our katina, during the big ceremony, the rags which I actually wove myself, I offered to the donors of the katina. So it's very popular and fun for us to be doing something at the same time. We can give it to our donors. Next. Yes, clean energy. Yes, we have solar cell to produce clean energy for our temple, and we have water mill. Yes, to bring in oxygen, to oxidize the water. And this is beautiful. Nature is inclusive. In Buddhism, beyond individual Buddha, there is the truth. In Islam, there is Allah. With this understanding, Buddhists and Muslims can have true dialogue on nature. We both are inclusive in nature. I think the last one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. Maybe I would take is basically the temple can be a catalyst for each other community, how to be active and how to do things that can save the earth. Even the garbage, you can donate the garbage itself. No issue. Even I think the mosque in Indonesia, they have the same program. They call it garbage endowment project. Yeah. So nothing to waste actually. So please, if anybody have a question, please raise your hand. Then we start asking question to both speaker today. So we start with I think we have one question. Hold on. Okay, from Professor Saadia. A question to Prof. Osman, referring to the verse of chapter 33 that you quote in your lecture, when men accept and were given amanah to the other, as opposed to the other creature, and the verses end with men are indeed unjust and foolish. Could you explain why men are regarded as unjust and foolish? Are men doomed to be destroyer of the planet?
Hello, yes. Well, as I said, I mean, we have to understand what is the inner message of that verse, not to be understood literally, right? As I said, the best way to understand the verse is to see the difference. What is the difference between a human being and all other creatures? Now, in the Islamic perspective, only human beings have been created with a free will, with the freedom. Although all human beings, the human species, has been created to be God's vicegerents or stewards or trustees on earth. All the creatures in nature, for example, they obey. I'm using the Islamic terminology here. They obey God's will in the perfect way. That means the creatures do not have any option to disobey, and it is in that sense that the heavens, the earth, and the mountains were glad to be themselves, to be true. If you use the word aslama, and the person or the thing that does the aslama is a Muslim. So from this sense, from this perspective, all the creatures are perfect Muslims in the sense of the perfect obedience to God. But in the case of human beings, because of that freedom of the will, human beings can obey or disobey God's rules, and that's what we have. So, but disobedience to God's will precisely means consequences. There are consequences for the world of nature. In other words, we are not one with nature. Our existence should be to be one with nature. But somehow we choose to be to go against the laws of nature, to go against what nature is. But in other words, if we reflect on what happens to the human being, having the freedom, to have the freedom means that has brought about the many consequences, evil consequences for human beings. That's basically the word used there. How foolish and just, Human beings are not true to themselves. They are not true to themselves as the creatures of God. Right? So if only human beings follow the trust, right? we play the good role of a trustee, right? A trustee who is obedient to Allah, all right? Together with the nature world, then there will be peace, all right? But what happens that in the history of human being, that is not the case. That's not the case. So man shows that aspect of ignorance, ignorance of what it means to be a free human being, to have a freedom. Freedom, man has misused that freedom, right? So in misusing that freedom, man has shown to be unjust. That's why I think the Quran reminds again and again that human beings are unjust to themselves, right? To do injustice to one's own soul. Because if we go through our own nature, all right, then it is based on true knowledge, on the truth, the idea of the truth, basically. Yeah. So how to live in accordance with the truth. So that's one of the interpretation. I'm not saying that's the only interpretation of that verse, but in our context, in context of our discussion, yes, it is. In what way are we foolish, ignorant? In what way are we unjust? All right. Thank you.
And we have a question from Mr. Tashing. Please, sir. Unmute yourself.
Okay. So my question is to great Professor Omasbaga. You just spoken also in those verses, verse 72. Meaning of verse 72, mainly you focus on God had given freedom of will to the humans, but not the other creatures on the planet. And I'm very curious on that basis, on that philosophy, how can you how can you create respect to the other creatures on this planet to live peacefully and harmoniously. We humans need to treat other creatures on this planet in a very compassionately, very lovingly. But God had given entirely sort of power to the humans, but not the animals. Can you briefly explain on that, please? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Yes, it's correct. I mean, as far as the teaching of Islam is concerned, all creatures except human beings have been created to serve to serve God in a perfect way. Look at the birds, all right? Well, of course, each creature has its own nature. For each creature, by being true to its own nature, that's how it serves the cosmic function. Well, say that in the Muslims, in the angels. Right? Now, the angels have knowledge, but the knowledge possessed by the angels is constant. It is not getting more and not getting less, right? Whereas in terms of human knowledge, man's knowledge can either increase or decrease. But although the other creatures do not have that freedom, in fact, that is a double-edged sword, you know, that freedom. Yeah. So, but the freedom means that human beings can either excel, or he can't. As the Quran says, God has created man in the best of moods, but it's then brought down to the lowest of the low. It was precisely because that thing is called free will, that freedom. All right. So how can man, and of course how the compassion? Yes, God. All the creatures are expressions of divine mercy, divine compassion. Every creature is an expression, a manifestation of divine mercy. Now, human beings have been given that attribute of compassion, of that mercy. But human beings also that kind of have that other the animal-like qualities, in the sense that man is a half angel, half animal, right? So that is the nature of the trials and tribulation that is being faced by women. What does it mean to be human being? That is the question. To be a human being, I mean that two possibilities, all right? Because of the higher qualities, of the higher motives, the angelic qualities, man can not rise to the heaven, but even be the best of all creatures. But if man allows the base nature, the animal nature, to be in charge, to take charge of ourselves, like greed, for example, all right? So greed can either be contained, or if you give the freedom to greed, then we're going to destroy ourselves. We have to destroy ourselves. So how can we ensure that we will not become prisoner? We will not become prisoner of our ego, of our lower desires. Different religions provide different means to that. All right. So, for example, the starting point of Buddhism, and understand, okay, the world is a source of suffering. The world is a source of suffering. Now, how can we go beyond that world suffering and enjoy the moksha, the freedom? That is the goal of life. The goal of life is also the same thing, but the starting point is different. The starting point here is that, well, the world is both good and bad, not entirely 100% suffering. In other words, it is also possible through the world to go beyond the nirvana, in other words. So different starting point, but the end is the same. Yeah, the same thing in the case of Islam and Christianity. Christianity starts the original sin. Islam starts from the sinless, with fitra. All right. But the question here is not the starting point. Not the starting point. What will be the eventual destination? So, by being part of the world, Islam provides the world how to overcome the world by not forgetting the world, by not neglecting the world. So I think the whole thing is concerned about the freedom of the will. How do we use our freedom to be in this world? Because it can be misused or it can be used correctly. That is the essence of human existence.
Thank you, Prof. My personal question to Dr. Namananda, okay, because our society currently they know about money and sense. If you do something, you have to explain on money and sense. So, could you explain if your temple start doing green project, how is the cost to set up the project, and after you start the project, how impact your temple?
Sorry, cannot give you in how to say digits, but we keep spreading the words, and particularly early last year, 2021, when we were first hit by this COVID, we opened the temple and provided food for the people around, starting with 40 families, and then kept on each week, because the lockdown was so sudden that the poor, the really poor, were hard hit, so we reached out to them, providing them 40 families, 50 families, 100 families, eventually 200 families, before the government started stepping in. This is also spreading the words that we ourselves did not have, but we started by buying 100 kilos of rice, and we started putting into small bags, like 2 kilos each. But someone saw in the media, someone saw my photo dishing out this rice to give it to the poor. Then they start coming in. So please begin the good act. People will see, and people will join, and people will support you. Right now, this one particular man who saw my photo of giving rice, he brought in more than 10,000 kilos of rice for us to distribute. So the idea of conserving nature is also the same thing. Start doing it, small project, whatever, and then it will start growing out, reaching the schools, reaching families, start doing even in a small community. I just encourage all Muslims as well as our Buddhist brothers and sisters to begin. I think it is the women, who actually hold the purse in the family. It is the women who actually sorry to say this, it's actually the women who understands better. Yeah, so when I open myself very much, as women, to work across from Buddhist and Muslim, we can work together. I can teach them whatever technique I have, weaving the rug and all that. This is not only a dialogue. Put the dialogue between Buddhist and Islam, more than just a dialogue, into action. Only when we start working together, that's when the real unity begins in the society.
Thank you, Rata. Yes, we need more action than talk. Agree with that. So I think they have another question from from Nuruddin Al-Akbar. Prof. Osman, can you explain whether the concept of man as micronism in Islam can be related to environment preservation? Thank you. Prof.
I couldn't get the sorry.
Concept of man as microism in Islam. Cosmo. The spelling is microcosm. Microcosm.
You mean microcosm?
Maybe. If Nuruddin is around, can you just straightforward ask?
Sorry, I couldn't get the question.
Yeah.
That's right. It's microcosm. Yeah, that's right. The word is microcosm. Okay. Prof. Osman, can you explain whether the concept of man as microcosm in Islam can be related to environmental preservation?
Oh, I see. I see. Yes. Thank you very much. Oh, yes, very much. In Islamic cosmology, man or human being is viewed as a microcosm, meaning a universe in miniature, a small universe. Right? This is an alam sawir in the Arabic. Right? Then you have the universe as the kind of as the big man. You have the small. The idea here is that everything that exists in the universe, external to human being, also exists in the human being. And what exists in the human being exists in the external world. There's a one-to-one correspondence between the human being and the universe external to him or to her. Now there are physical things in the external world, so there are physical things in the human being. There are subtle things, elements from the subtle world, including from the imaginal world, that exists in the external reality, that also exists within the human being. There are spirits, the spiritual thing outside human being, but also inside him. In fact, even according to the Quran, God breathed His spirit into man. So there is something divine also in the human being as divine in the external reality. So precisely because that's why, in a sense, that when you have this embryology, the various stages of human life in the womb of the mother, starting from the mineral kingdom, and from which the sperm is made. All right, but the sperm is already kind of vegetal life. So you have physical thing, vegetal life, and then it's kind of something of the animal inside us, inside human being, and then the angel, besides the angels, or the God breathes His soul into the fetus, into the womb of the mother. So basically, what it means that, all right, there is connection between the human being and the external world. That is special bond, natural kind of relationship. So you understand that one human being sees nature, the greenery of nature, the beautiful nature, it also, in a sense, exists that not simply sentimental, but a profound consciousness, right? Human being experience a kind of the consciousness, something out there which reminds him of what is in his being. So I think there's a very profound spiritual relationship between human being and the world of nature. That's how you have that kind of relationship. That bond between human being and the world of nature, that is the key to understanding at the human level. All right. So I think but what is microcosm? My simple answer: yes. The concept of microcosm is important, not only in respect to its nature, but also in relation to, for example, in medicine. All right. In other words, the idea of traditional medicine is that somehow there is a relationship between what is inside us and the things outside. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, we have another question for Dr. Dhammananda. You say in Buddhist, the dichotomy of man and nature is actually wrong. Man and cosmos are one. I want to ask, how does the Buddhist perspective view modern science, which by default compartmentalize reality? Is for Buddhism, scientific perspective is one of the cause environment damage. Thank you. Unmute. Okay.
As I'm sitting here, I'm not very sure if I can really handle the question. But when Professor Osman was answering the previous question, I was looking at him and I could see me in him and he in me. You know, that oneness. In Buddhism talk about something like this, you know, that we are all made of the 4 elements. What is sitting here as Dhammananda and what is sitting there as Professor Osman, it's actually the 4 elements borrowed from the larger universe, elements of the universe. And when we die, we simply return what we have borrowed during our lifetime back to the universe. So I don't know whether I am answering the person's question or not, but as I was sitting here, you know, listening to Professor Osman, that was my reaction and my understanding of the previous microcosm question.
The question about science. The science cause of environment damage. Scientific perspective.
Not science causing environmental damage. It is the human greed. It all started. Science is only tool. Science is only tool. Science technology is only tool, but it is ordered. It is, how to say, organized by men, by our mind. Our mind. It's human mentality that started all this trouble. You know, you could do the other way also. Professor Osman just said that free will, you know, free will that God has given to us, Allah has given to us, it is for you to do for the better, but you also have choice to go down, you know. But apparently in this environmental declaration, it is human being that actually chose the other way, not use the free will in the positive sense, so to say.
Thank you, Dr. Manda. Then another question for Prof. Osman from Mr. Chi Kyong Pan. According to the Quran, before humanity was created by Allah, there was another intelligent creature created by God. Did the creature also destroy their own ecology like us do now before their demise? Prof?
I'm sorry, I
Maybe refer to the creation of Adam itself, how the angel against the creation of angel Adam.
The angels and Adam, yes.
And they have all the angels against creation of Adam because there was creature before Adam who made munkar.
Is the question about the relationship between human beings and the angels? Is that?
No. There was another creature created by God before Adam. So did the creature destroy their own ecology?
Well, you know, on the planet Earth, if you go by chronological event, of course, according to Islamic science, that there's a similarity between with modern science in terms of that temporal sequence. What happens first? You have the material, the mineral world. First, the mineral world exists. Then the plants. So the plants came after the mineral, which is logical because the plants need minerals. I mean, feed on minerals. Therefore, minerals have to come first, followed by the plants, and then followed by animals, because animals depend on the existence of plants for different reasons, for various reasons. Then after the animal, then only the human being, that is Adam. So Adam appeared on earth after the plants, the animals have already existed. In other words, the earth was ready for to serve the needs of the human beings. Yeah. So that earth inherited that in which Adam was placed. It was a perfect earth. Yes, that earth is able to provide not only deed of Adam but also his generation. His progeny. Yeah. So and of course before that the angels existed. The angels belong to the spiritual world. The spiritual exists before the physical world even, because in Islamic angelology, Islamic cosmology, the angels were to serve the lower world. Why did God create the angels? To serve as the forces of nature, to administer, to govern the physical world, to govern, including what's going on earth. So in Islamic angelology, that's very, very, very clear. There were angels dealing with, with the sustenance of the universe, how to make our planetary system function in an orderly way. Even the other religions, but they use different language. For example, in Hinduism, of course, Islam avoids in order to avoid the possibility of that this created thing being divinized. So Islam avoids that kind of language, the gods and goddesses. But what Hinduism meant, the gods and the goddesses would correspond in terms of function, would correspond to what we call the angels. But Islam uses a certain kind of language, vocabulary to describe angels in order to avoid the possibility of worshipping in terms of divinizing those which apparently are creatures. I think Professor Young, I think basically that's it. Yes, the angels exist before the physical cosmos exists. Why? Because the angels have been assigned with cosmic duty to administer the world in which Adam and the human beings are placed. So in that sense, the angels are to serve humankind. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Maybe we have another last question for Dr. Dhammananda. Buddha said only humanity can gain enlightenment, but other creatures cannot. But why humanity destroyed their own ecology that another creature did not?
It is like evolve, how to say, so the mind evolves, like this in this life. If I do good, then I will be born better in a better realm. But should I do something very wrong, very bad, then I go lower realm. Next life, if I am very jealous in this life, next life I will be born a dog, like that. So you see that this evolvement of the spirit goes like that. But of course, eventually the goal would be enlightenment, and enlightenment cut across, as human beings, cut across male and female. Everyone has that potentiality to be enlightened, but you have to be human being. That's very interesting. Very interesting. You have to come to this human level, human being level, in order to be able to be enlightened.
Thank you, Dr. Mananda. If I don't have any question, I think thank you very much, Dr. Dhammananda and Professor Osman, for this good session. It's quite tough for afternoon session for everybody, actually. Okay. If not, just thank you everybody for this participation in this session. Back to you, Adli. Om Mr. Tan.
Thank you so much, Brother Shami, for moderating the session earlier, and of course, the organizers would like to say utmost appreciation to both Emeritus Professor Osman Bakar and Venerable Bhikkhuni Dr. Dhammananda that have actually clearly explains that how protection of the environment is a transcendental duty and also generational responsibility as well in making sure that we can sustain the earth for future beings. And the time now is 3:40 p.m. and what we are looking for is that we will have a break, just like what Brother Yusaimi have said. I mean, it must be a challenge for us to remain at this whole session, and hence we will take about 15 minutes break, which means that at 3:55 we will be back for the next session of the final topic for today, vulnerability and sustainability of planet Earth. So for now, please feel free for yourself to make sure that you can take coffee or take a break, and then we'll see you back at 3:55 p.m. Thank you so much and have a great break.